What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Freedom Side Chats. I'm so glad that you all joined us. I have a couple special guests with me tonight for this very important conversation that we're going to have. To my left, we have Minister Tim Tipton, and to my right, we have Brother Jesse Short. We are going to have a great conversation tonight, and the topic of the evening is injustice. And I think you all are going to enjoy this. I think it's very relevant for this moment that we're in. There's a lot happening, and who better to talk about it and to dig into it than the people of God. So I think the best way to start this is to talk with something that is happening right now in the world today that we all know about. So I guess to start off, everyone has seen what's been happening with the Breonna Taylor case and what's going on with that situation and how it's affected that family, how it's affected the city of Louisville. What are your thoughts about that situation just off top, like your immediate thoughts?
Well, my initial thought of it is it's kind of made me feel kind of numb, per se, because it's like even when all the case findings came out, it seemed like her life didn't matter. Just think about it. Excuse me. Just think about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the guy that was at the home was her recent boyfriend, right? Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So he let off a shot because he was protecting his home, right? So that's with anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody coming into your home, if you're armed with a firearm, you're gonna let off a shot. But there was suspected drug activity there, So by him letting off that shot, that shouldn't have subdued the policeman to let off all those shots like that. One shot, a warning shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It should have at least been a couple shots, not 16. And then he didn't die. She died. So you got to think about that. Just like all these scenarios that's going on in your head, like what shoulda, coulda, woulda, what, you know what I mean? All that plays in your mind, man, with this situation, though. And it's definitely an unfortunate situation.
So to add on to what you said, when it comes to the reason that the cops were there, the report was that a previous boyfriend had a drug charge or suspicion, exactly. And that was who the warrant was for.
Exactly.
And there were 5 houses that had been put under this warrant, and Breonna Taylor's house was one of them. And they went there expecting that guy, though they were not aware that I guess he had changed location and that she was not even in a relationship with him anymore.
Exactly.
And so they actually didn't have the right person when they showed up. Now they did try to add this guy does have a criminal record later, but that had nothing to do with this specific warrant.
Yeah. I mean, you see where they felt, the residence that they went to, Brianna's residence was considered, she in that residence was considered low threat, So you ask yourself, hey, if somebody or the nature around upon which you're there is considered low threat, why are we coming to that low threat situation, unmarked as police officers at night, with guns ablazing? If we're saying, it was a low threat type of a situation, I think for me, what continually is reoccurring here as we see all of these situations just continue to happen. It's hard as people of color, saved people of color. It's very difficult to not feel as if Black lives are devalued, or we have less of a value. And just when you're looking at the situations, just as we see them in all over, the country. Again, it's okay, or we have to wait however long we waited for a level of justice, in my opinion, that's sickening, and we see what happens to someone in our community. But it's interesting because, I saw more outrage. I see more issues with Mike Vick
Wow.
And a dog, because a dog died, there was more outrage
Than a human
over
being.
that than I see a human being. Another one here in Cincinnati, I saw more outrage because a gorilla. What was that gorilla's name?
Harambe.
Yeah, Harambe.
That James-
Now a black child fell down in the cage with this gorilla, and obviously we know the gorilla died, and there was such an outcry of why did that gorilla have to die because of that child? What's wrong with the parents?
National story.
And I'm looking, I'm saying, but that's a life. That's a human life.
Human.
And it's almost, it's getting to the point where we're saying, wait a minute. I mean, I'm looking at how we're being, unequally judged and handled and things of that nature. It's like, are our lives no more important than animals? I mean, is it really at that point now to where we're saying, good Lord, I mean, where is the justice, for people of color? And I think it's just sad because we don't see it. Seemingly, for some reason, people seemingly don't understand where we're coming from.
Audience, if you are enjoying this conversation, I encourage you to share it now. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. I think they're going to get a lot out of this as we continue. So to continue the conversation, I think for me, when I hear all of these things going on or see them, especially trying to keep the faith and keep that Christian side of me at the forefront, it's hard to do that, especially with social media and all the things that you see, because we've been doing this for a long time. Like this same exact conversation. Like our fathers sat down, had this same conversation. Their fathers sat down and had this same conversation. And then their fathers before them probably weren't allowed to have this conversation because they were in the field somewhere.
Exactly.
And I don't think that, and when we talk about that, I don't think that the country recognizes that or refuses to recognize that reality of the conversation. And then we come back to this every time, and then you go on social media and you see someone and their first reaction is, well, we don't know all the facts. And it's like, well, she was sleeping. I don't feel like I need to know anything else. What else do I need to know? We can talk about him later. Honestly, I didn't even care about the boyfriend situation. I was like, whatever he did with the guns, if he was wrong, cool. But that does not mean that she was just collateral damage. Like, you don't just get to do that. Like, you don't just get to come into a house, shoot, and ask questions later. Someone dies in the crosshairs, and then walk out like, oh, rough day at the office. Like, how is that considered? And then your response is, well, we don't know all the facts. We have to do more investigation. I don't know how to I'm not a person who engages in communication on social media. I'm not going to comment unless I know the person on anything political or anything like that. I'm not going to DM. I'm not going to do all that. But I do find myself frustrated with the discourse around this conversation because it seems like it's the same conversation every single time. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with you. It's like the same result after result. Even though, and this is just my view, even though we're spirit-filled men of God, black men, right? But you gotta have somebody in these rooms, right? You gotta have somebody in these rooms that can, impact change. Because, and this is just me speaking. We can preach and minister to people all day long. We can do that. But are they really hearing us? We got to get in these rooms, man, and impact some change, get some laws changed, and start talking to people, man, that's really going to listen to us so we can make some change out there.
Yeah, I think it's important. We've all probably heard, the statement that says, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and yet expecting a different result. As a leader in the workplace, that's something I mentor and I coach many people. Using that very ideology. Hey, you can't expect something. You can't expect a different outcome if you continue the same vicious cycle over and over, no matter what it is you're talking about or what it pertains to. So, we've And I think that's a part of the frustration of Black America or minority America is we've tried seemingly everything at this point, to which we're out of options, right? We're seemingly out of options, and we see things now becoming a little more violent. You see the voice of especially the younger Black Americans, or again minority Americans, or even just the younger generation, because we see color lines are being crossed with these issues, which I think is a positive thing. But I think what we have to be after is identifying and seeing and bring this to the attention of the people in power. Hey, look, time and time again, we see this is not working. I mean, let's just be honest. The system is not working.
It's not.
Again, we keep repeating these same cycles. We keep repeating these same vicious cycles of that we're seeing in our communities and in our country, our world, and nothing's changing. So I really think to really see something happen, and we have to look beyond what we have already done all of these years, and try to figure out what it is that's going to help bring this, or get us in, or put us in another place. Because again, we've been doing this time and time again, the same conversations, the same marches, the same slogans and things of that nature, and seemingly, I'm for all of that, but I also believe there has to be more. Again, you talked about getting into the rooms where the change is being birthed. That's what I really challenge, our culture, and get yourself into a place, put yourself in a position to where you can impact change. Not just be a part of it, but rather impact that.
Exactly.
I preach that to my children. I preach that in my home. Place yourself or position yourself to where you can be impactful.
That's right.
When you become impactful, that changes, terrain. So, I think that's something that's really important, that, we have to become people of action. We have to be impactful and do something.
I think we've come to a point as Black Americans where we look at, you just talked about it, the options that we have before us are finite. Like we've done it every way. You have young people saying, okay, we tried it, the civil rights way, the marching, the nonviolence, that way. And then the older people are saying, we saw y'all do the riots too. We've had plenty of riots throughout this country.
Yeah.
Those don't work either.
No.
We've tried Black faces in high places.
Yeah.
For 8 years,
right.
We had a Black president, a Black attorney general. There was one case where we had a Black president, a Black attorney general, a Black mayor, a Black governor, I believe, and a Black chief of police in one case, and still no charges.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have that many Black faces who you would think could get that job done,
yeah,
and still you get no results.
Yeah.
There is something fundamentally broken in the system.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a fundamental breakdown of a system that is not designed for everyone.
Yes, exactly.
I think we see that very clearly. Or it should be very visible now. Is, hey, look, again, we're talking about, how do we really change this thing? And I think that's where it begins, with really looking at this system and saying, hey, yeah, of course, we understand that this was founded upon the principles that, liberty, liberty and justice, all of these things for all. But who is the all? Right. Who was the all at that time? And is that what we see today? And I think when we look at everything that's going on from a race standpoint, from a gender standpoint, from all of these different, standpoints, I think we have to be honest and say, no, that is not what America is reflective of right now. So it takes honesty. And that's something, I think that's the biggest issue that we have is, as communities, we're not willing to be honest. We're not willing to really have these very difficult conversations, and understand how it relates, how we relate in that regard. And it's frustrating because hey, until we're willing to really see the situation for what it is. I mean, the level of hypocrisy, again, just the level of hypocrisy that we see, is just stunning. For instance, we continue hearing violence is not the answer, and I agree.
Certainly.
Violence is not the answer, or
Absolutely.
destruction and things of that nature. That's not the answer. I agree. However, I think it is noteworthy to realize that this country was founded upon those very principles. I mean, the Boston Tea Party was essentially a riot.
Exactly, it was.
And vandalism and the things that birthed this
The
nation.
Revolutionary War.
Absolution. Revolution was birthed, out of actions like that.
Exactly.
So, we have, again, we need to be honest and transparent and realize where we are, who we are, and how we were formed as a country and how that relates to what we're going through right now.
So how do we, as a society, with all the divisions that we know we have, just we'll start with you, how do we start progressing towards those conversations? Like those hard conversations, we've all tried to have them. How do we get there? How do you get people open to that?
Well, I think you start locally first. You have to start locally because you can't get to the White House just starting out. You start locally. You start in your communities. You build. You form groups. You build groups, and you speak about things, the needs. What is needed in these communities. You know what I mean? And you take those needs to, city council. You know what I mean?
Right.
You take those needs down there. But you like to what Tim said, you have to be honest and transparent about what the need is. Because if you can't figure that out, you're gonna continue to keep going through these same cycles. Start locally, put some things together, and let's go make it happen. If we really want to impact and see change, let's get in these rooms and let's put these ideas on the forefront and let's see some change happen. Because we can ride, we can talk, we can Facebook, we can blast, we can do all that all day.
Yeah.
But it's still not impacting change.
That's right.
So we've seen examples of when African Americans have made that choice that I, as an individual, do not like how this system works for people like me, and I'm going to do it my way. So one great example recently, Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry, whether you like his movies, whether you like his work or not, built something from nothing, literally nothing.
Absolutely.
Did it his way, created his own character, made other people say either I'll buy into it or I won't. He didn't do it the way you liked it, didn't do it the way other people wanted to do it, made it his own, and then built all that wealth, accumulated all that Medea money, and then took it and said, I'm going to now build something for my people.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And then built it on a Confederate graveyard, I believe.
Yeah.
Was it a great or old campground, I believe, and built his own studio and said, okay, now this will be a place where if Black people want to come and create and not feel subjugated and feel second class, here's your space. I've given you this space now to do that. This is, I know what you need, and here it is. So, but he was the person who built that. How do we get other African Americans to what do we need to do as a community to start creating more opportunities like that?
Yeah, well, I agree with what Jess is saying wholeheartedly. Is we all, when we see these type of issues, especially when we're talking in the government, things of that nature, we always look towards the president, and Congress and things of that nature. But like you're saying, the majority of what affects us day in and day out is state and local, right? It's state and local, city, state, city, state, and learning how to galvanize from that standpoint, is really is what is going to captivate and really drive change. And something I really think that we have to understand as a people, as a community, as people and children of God, period. We have to be people of action, right? We are all easily people, everybody can speak a good game, but can you literally walk the walk of what you're wanting.
Exactly.
We understand justice is a very tough road to walk. Are you willing to walk that road? And the issue is, we have to be willing to work. You have to put the work in. Nothing's going to happen overnight.
Right.
Change doesn't happen overnight. It's a progressive movement
Right.
that will only continue, with positive movement, with movement forward. And, we have to convert ourselves from just posts, from just slogans, from just T-shirts, from just things like that, which we love, we support, we believe in, and really looking towards action. Okay, and I'll be honest, I don't know what that necessarily is.
Right.
Again, we just said it. Hey, look, it's increasingly, it's not where we want it to be, but it's going to get better. We're starting to get into the boardrooms for goodness sakes. The president of the United States was black. So we're in some of these spaces, and we still see we are where we are. So I don't have the answer. I don't literally know, but I know it's action. It's action. It's speaking. It's speaking. Positivity into our young people,
Exactly.
teaching them their value, not allowing them to understand their value out from an outside source. It's these type of things that are really what we have to start instilling in our young people and in our community. To help spurn action.
And I think that the action, at least the action that we've seen from those who came before us, started like this in conversation.
Right.
They all came together and said, okay, what are we going to do? What can we all agree on? And they had long nights, they had long meetings. They came to a conclusion and were on one accord and then moved forward. And I think that's another conversation for another day is once we make a decision on what the action is, can we all move forward together? Because we can't have one group going that way, one group going this way, and then one group going straight, and then think that we're all going to get to the same place. We have to be on one accord and agree on something, even if it's a bare bones idea, like just an idea of what we want to do. We can take different paths, not different paths, but have different perspectives on how to get there, but have the same idea, the same goal, and the same action plan.
Can I touch
Please,
on something?
please.
So even when Breonna Taylor situation, right? We have an organization of the NBA, right? When that situation happened, we had the two wealthiest NBA teams, step up and say, well, you know what? We ain't gonna play. We're not gonna play.
That was big.
We're not gonna play. You had the Los Angeles Lakers and you had the Los Angeles Clippers.
Sure.
That was a big move.
They both said they were not going to play, right?
Yeah.
So, Milwaukee team boycotted the game. Everybody boycotted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you have one person say, well, what's the plan? If we're not going to play, what is the plan? Meaning LeBron James. Right. So what is the plan? We didn't came all the way down here in this bubble to not play. We can still impact change without a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So but the key thing though out of all that is you gotta have a plan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You gotta have a plan.
Absolutely.
You start doing stuff.
Don't just do something and don't have the end result to it.
Because that's how bad things happen. Is somebody says,
Exactly.
and I understand the urge, but somebody says, well, we gotta do something.
Right.
Like that's literally what riots are.
Mm-hmm.
It's people saying, I feel unheard and I need to do something.
Exactly.
And okay, I'll go break a window. I'll go burn something down. You gotta have a strategy.
Right.
You gotta know what you're doing and where you're going.
And that begins with really understanding what brings about change. So that's a big reason why I like to challenge our community when it comes to understanding what really can affect change. For instance, something I really want to see our people do much better at and with is money, because when you really realize what I wish our people really understood the value of their dollar.
Mm-hmm.
It was seen back in the day, when they said, okay, we can't sit where we want to sit on the bus, we won't ride your buses.
Exactly.
and that got their attention, right? And I think there's a significant value, in the wealth of our community, or our community building their wealth. So that's why, to me, it's important that we learn how to value our money, and put it to good use. So it helps get you to a place that you may not be, or have an advantage in life that you may not have. So again, retraining our minds and understanding, what helps to make us better as a people, and having that level of influence. We don't just have to have influence as athletes.
Exactly.
And I mean, there's other avenues. We just have to challenge ourselves as a people to get on those platforms. It takes discipline. It takes work. It takes a lot of various efforts. But at the end of the day, those are platforms we've built. They've been built on our backs. Exactly. So why not start benefiting from them?
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that helps.
I think we've had a great conversation here tonight. I think this is something to continue. I think this is a conversation we have to come back to. If you did not share, please share this with your friends and family. I believe they will be blessed by this conversation. Before we go, we always want to wrap this in and give you a few scriptures to kind of think about this topic. So one scripture about injustice that the Bible talks about is Proverbs 17:15. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both alike an abomination to the Lord. We can talk about Psalms 43:1. Vindicate me, O God, and defend my cause against an ungodly people, for the deceitful and unjust man deliver me. You can go to Proverbs 29:27. An unjust man is an abomination to the righteous, but one whose way is straight is an abomination to the wicked. Proverbs 31:8-9. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and the needy. In Isaiah 1:17. Learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the widow's cause. The Bible talks about injustice, and there are plenty more scriptures that you can go and find. But what we've talked about here today ties into all of this. Mm-hmm. Do not find yourself trying to justify all the injustice that you see. Do not find yourself trying to make it make sense and rationalize it. It is time to address all this stuff that is happening. These wounds are open for a reason. It is time to start healing. It is time to start correcting. It is time to start rebuilding as not only a country, not only as people of God, but just as human beings in this world. Turning back to God and opening ourselves for healing in a time of reconciliation. I want to thank Mr. Tim, Brother Jesse for joining me this evening. This has been an enlightening conversation. I would love to continue this conversation with you both. This is something that I hope that you all shared and got out to your friends and your family. Connect with GAT on our Facebook page at Great Emanuel Apostolic Temple, or at YouTube at Emanuel Broadcast. Tell us what else you want us to talk about in the comments section. Tell us if you like this conversation, if you want more conversations like this, what you want to hear about. This is all for you. Young people, we thank you for tuning in. Those who are older, we thank you for tuning in. Anyone who tuned in, we thank you and God bless you. Whose side are you on? I'm on the freedom side.